If you're thinking about buying a Toyota Camry, you might be seconds away from making a decision you'll either love for the next 10 years or regret every single time you get behind the wheel. Because here's the truth nobody tells you, the Toyota Camry is one of the most reliable cars ever made. But that doesn't mean it's the right car for you. In fact, for a lot of people, it's actually the wrong choice. And the worst part? Most buyers don't realize that until it's too late. So before you spend your money on a Camry, you need to understand what this car really is. What it does better than almost anything else on the road. And more importantly, what it doesn't do. Because this car has strengths that are almost unbeatable. But also weaknesses that can completely ruin the ownership experience, depending on who you are. And today, we're going deep. We're talking engine, performance, fuel economy, reliability, real-world ownership, maintenance costs, driving feel, comfort, parts sharing, long-term value, and whether this car actually deserves its reputation in the United States. And by the end of this video, you'll know one thing for sure. Should you buy the Toyota Camry or stay far away from it? The Toyota Camry isn't just a car, it's a symbol. In the United States, the Camry has been one of the best-selling sedans for decades. It's the kind of car people buy when they don't want problems, when they want something that just works. No drama, no surprises, no headaches. And that's exactly why it became so popular. But here's where things get interesting. Because the same thing that makes the Camry great is also what makes it boring for some people, and even disappointing for others. Let's talk about what's under the hood, because this is where the Camry starts to reveal its true personality. In the US, the modern Toyota Camry typically comes with three main engine options. First, the standard 2.5-liter four-cylinder engine. This engine produces around 203 horsepower in most trims, and up to 206 horsepower in sportier versions like the Say and XSE. Torque sits around 184 pounds FT. Now Fiat 184 pounds FT. Now 184 versions like the Say and XS. Torque sits around 184 pounds FT. Now, on paper, that might not sound exciting, but in real life, it's actually more than enough for daily driving. Acceleration from 0 to 60 miles per hour is roughly in the 7.5 to 8 second range. Not fast, not slow, just adequate, which perfectly matches the Camry's personality. Then you have the V6 option, a 3.5-liter V6 producing around 301 horsepower and 267 pounds FT of torque. Now this is where things get interesting, because suddenly the Camry goes from just a commuter car to something that can actually surprise people. 0 to 60 miles per hour drops to around 5.5 seconds. That's legitimately quick. Faster than a lot of cars people assume are sporty, but here's the thing. Most Camry buyers never choose the V6. Why? Because it's more expensive, slightly worse on fuel, and honestly, most people buying a Camry aren't looking for speed. They're looking for peace of mind. And finally, the hybrid. This is where Toyota really dominates. The Camry Hybrid combines a 2.5-liter engine with an electric motor, producing around 208 horsepower combined. But the real story isn't power. It's efficiency. We're talking about up to 51 miles per gallon in the city and around 53 mpg on the highway. That's insane for a midsize sedan. And this is one of the biggest reasons why the Camry is so popular in the US. Let's break this down in real-world terms, because numbers on paper don't always tell the full story. The standard four-cylinder Camry gets around 28 mpg in the city, 39 mpg on the highway, which is excellent. The V6 drops to around 22 mpg, city 32 mpg, highway still decent, but not amazing. And then the hybrid, that's where things get ridiculous. You can easily average over 45 mpg combined in real-world driving. Sometimes even more if you drive conservatively. And in the US, where people drive long distances every day, this makes a huge difference over time. We're talking thousands of dollars saved in fuel. Now let's talk about the biggest reason people choose the Camry: reliability. Because Toyota didn't build its reputation by accident. The Camry is known for lasting 200,000, 300,000, sometimes even 400,000 miles with proper maintenance. And that's not just marketing, that's real-world data. The engines are built to be durable. The transmissions are smooth and long-lasting. And the overall engineering is focused on longevity, not just performance. One of the reasons the Camry is so reliable and affordable to maintain is parts sharing. Toyota uses similar components across multiple models. For example, the 2.5L engine is also used in cars like RAV4 Highlander Lexus E's. This means parts are widely available. And when parts are widely available, they're cheaper. Mechanics are also familiar with these engines, so labor costs tend to be lower compared to luxury or less common brands. Now here's where things start to split opinions. Driving a Camry is easy, smooth, predictable, and for a lot of people, that's perfect. The steering is light. The suspension is tuned for comfort. The car absorbs bumps really well. It's ideal for daily commuting, long highway drives, and traffic. But if you're someone who enjoys driving, you might find it boring. Because the Camry is not designed to excite you, it's designed to not bother you. And that's a big difference. The suspension setup is focused on comfort over sportiness. You get McPherson struts in the front, multi-link suspension in the rear. This combination provides a soft, stable ride. Perfect for American roads. Even on rough pavement, the Camry stays composed, but again, if you're expecting a sporty feel, you won't find it here. Inside the Camry, you get exactly what you expect. Comfortable seats, good space for passengers, a large trunk, solid build quality. Everything feels functional, not overly luxurious. Not cheap either, just well-balanced. And that's the theme of this car. Everything is designed to be just right, not extreme. Toyota also puts a strong focus on safety. Most Camry models come with Toyota Safety Sense, which includes adaptive cruise control, lane departure alert, automatic emergency braking. Blind spot monitoring, this makes it one of the safest choices in its class, especially for families. Now, here's where things get serious. Because everything we talked about so far sounds great, right? Reliable, efficient, comfortable, safe. So why would I tell you not to buy it? Because the Camry is not for everyone. And in part 2, we're going to talk about the biggest mistakes Camry buyers make, hidden downsides nobody talks about, real ownership frustrations. Whether it's actually worth the money in 2026 and who should and should not buy this car, because for some people, this is the perfect car. But for others, it's a decision they regret. Now let's get real about the Toyota Camry, because this is the part most people don't talk about, and it's exactly where buyers start making mistakes. Because on paper, the Camry looks like the perfect car, reliable, fuel efficient, comfortable, safe, affordable to maintain. Everything sounds right. But the problem is that people assume perfect on paper means perfect for them. And that's where things go wrong, because the Camry has very specific strengths, and if your expectations don't match those strengths, you will feel disappointed no matter how good the car actually is. So let's start with the first big issue, and that is driving excitement, or better said, the lack of it. Because if you are someone who enjoys driving, if you like feeling connected to the road, if you like sharp steering, aggressive acceleration, or a sporty personality, the Camry will feel extremely underwhelming even with the V6. Yes, it is fast in a straight line, but speed alone does not create excitement. The steering is still soft, the suspension is still comfort-oriented, and the overall experience is still designed to be calm, predictable, and quiet, which for many drivers feels boring, and that's not a flaw. It's a design choice, but if you expect anything close to a sports sedan, you will be disappointed. And this is one of the biggest mistakes people make. They buy a Camry expecting emotion, but the Camry is built for logic, not emotion, and that difference matters more than you think. Now, let's talk about another issue, and that is interior experience. Because while the Camry is comfortable and well built, it is not a luxury car. And some buyers expect it to feel more premium than it actually is, especially when they choose higher trims like the XSE or XLE. The materials are good, but not exceptional. The design is modern, but not exciting. And after a few months, many owners realize that it feels more practical than special. And again, that's not necessarily a problem unless you were expecting something different. Now let's talk about technology, because this is another area where expectations can create frustration. Toyota has improved a lot over the years, but compared to some competitors, especially Korean brands like Hyundai and Kia, The infotainment system can feel slower, less intuitive, and less visually impressive. It works, it does the job, but it doesn't feel cutting edge. And in today's market, where people expect their cars to feel like smartphones, that can be a downside, especially for younger buyers. Now let's move into ownership costs, because this is where the Camry shines, but also where people sometimes misunderstand the value. Yes, the Camry is cheap to maintain. Yes, it is extremely reliable. Yes, it holds its value very well in the United States, but the initial price is not always as low as people expect, especially in higher trims. And when you compare it to competitors that offer more features for the same price, some buyers start questioning whether the Camry is still the best deal. However, over time, the Camry usually wins because reliability reduces unexpected expenses, and that peace of mind is something you cannot easily measure. Now let's talk about long-term ownership, because this is where the Camry becomes almost unbeatable. This car is built to last. And not just mechanically, but financially, because depreciation is slower than most cars in its class. Which means when you decide to sell it, you will get more of your money back compared to many competitors. And that's a huge advantage, especially in the US market where resale value matters a lot. Now let's talk about older models, because not everyone is buying a brand new Camry, and this is important. Older Camry models are known for their durability, especially those from the early 2000s up to the mid-2010s. Many of them are still on the road today with high mileage and still running strong, which tells you everything you need to know about Toyota's engineering philosophy. However, older models can feel outdated in terms of technology, safety, features, and interior design, so you need to balance reliability with modern expectations. Now let's talk about safety in real-world terms, because while the Camry is packed with safety features, what really matters is how it performs in everyday driving, and this is where the car excels. The visibility is good, the braking is consistent, the stability is solid, and the driver assistance systems are designed to reduce stress, not add complexity. And for families, this is a huge advantage. Now, let's talk about who should actually buy this car, because this is the most important part of the entire video. If you are someone who values reliability above everything else, if you want a car that will start every morning without problems, if you want low maintenance costs, good fuel economy, strong resale value, and a comfortable driving experience, the Camry is one of the best choices you can make, especially if you plan to keep the car for many years. But if you are someone who wants excitement, cutting-edge technology, premium luxury, or a unique driving experience, the Camry might not be the right choice for you, and that's okay, because not every car is built for every person. And understanding that is what separates a smart buyer from someone who regrets their purchase. Now let's answer the final question. Should you buy the Toyota Camry? And the answer is simple. It depends on what you value. If you value peace of mind, it's a yes. If you value emotion, it's probably a no. And that's the truth most people don't tell you. The Camry is not a car you fall in love with. It's a car you trust. And for millions of people in the United States, that's more than enough, but for others, it will never feel like the right choice. So before you buy, ask yourself one question. Do you want a car that excites you, or a car that never lets you down? Because the Toyota Camry will only give you one of those, not both, and choosing the wrong one is exactly how people end up regretting this car.